All right, welcome into the Important Nonsense Podcast. Steve Bonham, Neil Smith, Mike Manning. 32 teams in 32 days. Today, the New York Jets. Yuck. That is that's the tagline for them this season, right? If you put in hashtag yuck, it puts the little Jets logo behind it automatically.
Or did they switch the
J-E-T-S.
Y-U-C-K?
Yep.
There
Yep.
you go.
There it is.
There it is.
We found it. We
Marketing
found it.
geniuses. We are recording these on August 10th. So if anything seems out of date, that would be why. Also, everything we do is 12-team PPR. So again, if rankings, projections, any of that seems slightly off, it would be because you need to adjust accordingly. We will do a wrap-up show on August 26th live, Twitch, right here on YouTube, and on our Facebook. So you can hop in the chat, ask us any questions at that point, but also patreon.com/important nonsense. At the $5 tier, you get complete access to everything, including our Discord, where you can ask us any questions about any of these teams at any time. You don't have to wait until the 26th. And you also get these videos 2 days early, in addition to our projections, our betting stuff, our rankings, all that fun jazz. So we will get into the Jets, starting at the top with quarterback. Few teams have spent more to surround their young QB with talent than the Jets have with Zach Wilson. They have added Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Michael Carter, Breece Hall via the draft, along with Corey Davis in free agency last season, and the tight end pairing of CJ Uzama and Tyler Conklin in free agency this offseason. A lot of that to say, here you go, kid, what do you got? And I feel like this is when we were talking about Drew Lock with Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton and KJ Hamler and Noah Fant. Here you go, kid. What do you got? And now he's in Seattle. Here we are. Here we are with Zach Wilson, the prelude. Look, to me, does he have upside? Maybe, but it blows me away every time we evaluate players year on year, how people have selective memories or how they only want to cherry pick and choose the categories or the facts that they recall. People love to talk about how Michael Carter had these breakout games, and people love to talk about how Elijah Moore looked electric, and they love to forget the fact that that was with Mike White and had nothing to do with Zach Wilson being under center. And when Zach Wilson was actually playing, they were atrocious. This entire offense was absolutely terrible. So you got to hope, right, that in year 2 he takes a step. But my God, that was rough.
That's actually being polite. I know Zach Wilson is one of your favorites, Steve. I know. You try to hide your true feelings and bottle them up, but
yeah, very reserved about it.
If you're looking for nice things to say about Zach Wilson, and there are precious few,
you got to search.
You got to look, but he is broadly mobile. He does get out of the pocket well and run around. He is good at doing that, so you will get some kind of rushing floor. The problem is that he's hideously inaccurate, and he's never met some chances that he didn't like to take, even when they were incredibly ill-advised. So we say all that to say,
on and off the field.
Yes. So we say all that to say there's upside here-ish, but there's also the hideous precipice of a floor that you could fall off of, which is why he finds himself he's past the upside tier. He's also past the tier 6 glimmer of hope that things could change tier for me. And he's into the tier 7 of, I guess I need a backup. That's where he is. You're hoping that he can take a huge sophomore leap. He can clean up a lot of his issues. Again, if you're looking for positives, he's looked good in camp. However, I would just point out to people that is against the Jets defense. So what does that actually mean? They've been throwing out all these numbers every day coming out of camp. He was 9 for 11. He was 10 for 12 today. And he had 2 rushing touchdowns in the red zone period that we got to watch. And I'm like, great. Against the Jets defense. That's not he's not going to play the Jets defense. That's not going to happen. So it's hard to really get excited about a lot of this. I do think he's better than Drew Lock. So again, looking for nice things to say. I do think he's better than that. But there's not a lot here that would really inspire a whole lot of confidence. And boy, I've run out of nice things to say. Mike, do you have anything to say, positive or negative?
I mean, there are also reports in camp that the offensive line is abysmal at this point, and basically letting, like, he would have been sacked 5 or 6 times or something along those lines, but they don't count sacks in training camp. So they just do like a clock sort of thing.
Do you want to mention Bakai Becton, aka Bacon, now also being
Gone
out
for the
for
year.
the year? Yeah, gone for the year already, because that's going to help that line, as we know. That's definitely going to make that easy.
I mean, if they do bring in Dwayne Brown, which they have been flirting with, that actually would help the line
Probably.
to switch to Dwayne Brown instead of Mackay. But it's also the fact that as someone that writes a matchup article every week for this website, I did target the Jets defense pretty often when I said for somebody to look at last year.
There you go.
No amount of drafting sauce is gonna just fix that problem overnight.
This is the epitome of, hey, you got talent around you now, but you better be carried by the talent basically around you. Breece Hall had a generational combine. He was productive in college. Michael Carter, good receiving back that was efficient when he got the ball on the ground. But as we said, his best games came again whenever it was Mike White or Joe Flacco, or even who was the third one that he played like a game and a half basically. Doesn't matter.
Josh
Johnson. Yeah. So I don't know. He has a connection with Corey Davis, it seems, but this offseason he's been hanging out with Elijah Moore. So who knows?
Yeah.
If we're gonna go narrative routes.
Yeah.
His strongest assets are on the run, like trying to make a play out of nothing type passes, which obviously also has gone the wrong way. And his mobility that is obviously he had 2 games last year where he had multiple rushing touchdowns. Okay, well, could be something, but we're in the same mentality as we have the same amount of knowledge as most Jets fans do too here. You don't know.
Yep. Neil, I'm with you. I've got my Dockers tier, of course. And then I've got my
tier 4, as they call it.
Yes, and then I've got my upside tier with all the guys I think I have hope, and then I've got my bedrock, which is just the guys that I feel like this is my worst case scenario, and then I've got my 6 feet under tier, and that's where Zach Wilson is. I feel like if you've gone here, you've dug too far. That's basically where you're at with Zach Wilson. I feel like there's not a ton of upside, as I've been saying. I'm just not buying it. Last season, there were 30 quarterbacks that had at least 350 pass attempts. The 28th rated quarterback in terms of completion percentage was a tie between Sam Darnold and Trevor Lawrence with 59.9%. Zach Wilson was dead last with 55.6 completion percentage. Like, not only was he was last by a wide margin. He wasn't even close. He was off the page bad. So, yes, not a fan.
And I know in terms of accuracy with PFF, he was also dead last.
Yeah.
By a good margin. So not only was he not completing them, it wasn't putting him in the right spot either.
Yeah, I mean, just whatever metric you want to look at. Air yards per attempt, he was third to last, only better than Sam Darnold and Trevor Lawrence. Adjusted net yards per pass attempt, he was the only quarterback in the league below 4. He was at 3.8. I mean,
Glad we started with the positives.
It's just
I promise you, folks listening to this, it does actually get better. Like
Well,
not by a
look,
lot, but at least
we've spent
incrementally.
we've spent a lot of time on this telling you that Zach Wilson is bad. And the reason that we have to waste so much time on this, because no one should ever be drafting Zach Wilson as their fantasy quarterback. The reason it matters is because people want his wide receivers and pass catching options. And you have to understand the jugs machine that's trying to get him the ball. There are layers to this onion.
Could they do that? Could they get a jugs machine and like spray paint a 12 on it?
It'd be more efficient.
Like,
it doesn't even have eyes and it has better vision. Running back. Breece Hall had one of the best pre-draft processes in years, elevating himself every step of the way and having one of the strongest combines by a running back ever. Michael Carter was also efficient in 2021. I wasn't a fan, but he was all right. Relegated to the RB2 on the depth chart, but again, all the reports have been Breece Hall looks amazing. He's every bit of what they drafted him to be, and Michael Carter has also been good. He's been okay and should be a serviceable backup. That's basically what we've heard. Breece Hall was the first running back off the board, rightfully so. Going top of the second round, he was far and away the number one prospect in this draft from a fantasy perspective. Why here?
Yeah.
Why here? Okay. We've had this discussion so many times. Even when we had Le'Veon Bell here, can we name a running back since, Frank Gore?
Even that was questionable.
Really, since Curtis Martin? Like, when's the last time a running back for the Jets mattered? Matt Forte, briefly?
For like 3
Was
games.
Chris Ivory a couple times?
We were never in on that.
But even then,
probably have to ask
he was
somebody else.
It's bad.
Yeah.
But Breece Hall is great. Like, he's an exceptional talent. I've got him at RB24 just because, again, I think he's good enough, but I don't think he's a generational type talent. He doesn't evaluate as he was the best in this class, but this was not a good running back class. I think that's the separator that people have to remember, is just because you're the number one in a class doesn't necessarily mean you're an off the charts great player. Like, if I was putting him into last year's class, I think he evaluated as like RB 4 or 5. So he's really good, but I don't think he's a top 10 guy like people want to boast him as. I've seen people say he could be a league winner, top 10 running back this season, and I find that extremely difficult to believe.
I didn't realize you followed Michael Fabiano on Twitter. That's
Yeah,
got to be where that's coming from.
Especially this team specifically. In the right circumstance, sure, given the value, but on this team, I can't see that. 24 is as high as I would go.
I've got him at 21. I know, I love him. A whole whopping 3 spots. ECR's got him at 19. So I'm curious what the ADP would be.
24 as well.
24. Okay. At this point, I'd probably be okay with it. I'm okay with taking the shot on him being my RB2 in fantasy. I don't want to get any more.
But
and that's back end RB2. You know what I mean? It's like your literal back end of RB2 is what that would translate to. So I'd be okay with it. Also, based on the idea that if I had to, I guess I could handcuff Michael Carter to him. Although the issue with that is, I know that's the problem, is that you mentioned it. Michael Carter did all his work with Zach Wilson not playing quarterback.
Right.
Michael Carter was useless when Zach Wilson was under center because everyone was useless when Zach Wilson was under center. So that becomes the problem, as you mentioned, with all the analysis we're going to give here, is that it's all predicated on the idea that Zach Wilson can elevate from beyond flaming dumpster fire and not crater out everything around with him. The thing that I think is the most Zach Wilson cratering proof would be Breece Hall. But I will say this: are you going to be excited if he's your RB2, like for your actual team? You know what I mean? Like,
Probably not.
Be nervous.
Not. Be nervous about it. Exactly. You'd need a really good third running back.
Here's my biggest issue with it: where he's going right now in the 5th round is fine, and like I said, I've got him ranked that way. But here's the guys going in the exact same spot or behind him in ADP: Travis Etienne, Elijah Mitchell, who's the clear-cut RB1.
All right, take both.
San
We'll just play the name game. I'll take both of those
J.K.
guys.
Dobbins
Yeah, I'd probably do that too. with him coming
A.J.
off the club.
Dillon,
Yep, doing that.
and then CEH. And
Okay,
I think
I can't
Hall
stand
has more upside than CEH. And that's
Yeah, I don't
it.
want CEH, but
That's it. Like, of those guys I listed, Hall I would only want over CEH, and that's just because of the question mark. But I hate this situation.
Mike, would you rather have CEH? I saw you shaking your head there.
No, I would rather have Hall.
What about-
I think I had Hall more than a couple of those guys, actually.
Okay.
Dobbins and Hall are very, very close. I wouldn't blame if you wanted to go Dobbins. That's pretty much a coin flip for me. I'd rather Etienne. And Elijah
We all
Mitchell,
agree on that.
Yeah, I'd rather Etienne by a good margin.
Not really close.
But I think the Elijah Mitchell one becomes similar as well. Like Dobbins, Mitchell, and Hall, if you had like a certain feeling or like a gut that was like, I'm going this route or something, I wouldn't blame you. I think I would lean, honestly, Hall out of all three of those, but it would be like a slightest of margins, if anything. It would depend on how the rest of my roster was, built out.
I've got
if I could afford this risk.
I've got Hall, CEH, Mitchell, and Chase Edmonds all in the same tier together. And then J.K. Dobbins in the tier just behind that.
I mean, if we're sitting there and saying...
But I've got A.J. Dillon ahead of it, and then I've got Etienne way, way above all that.
Yeah, he was the standout.
He's still the screaming value.
Yeah.
But
we've seen an offense led by Jake Luton have success at the running back position with a much less talented running back.
Yeah.
I think the question is not talent and not even as much the team. It's going to be, is this scheme going to continue to be a headache of, let's get a bunch of running backs on the field. You want to play for this series, then we're going to take you out. Then we'll put in Michael Carter, and then we'll take you out. And we might put Hall back in, but we might throw Ty Johnson back in. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Because this is still the same scheme that was from San Francisco.
Right.
And last year,
Kevin
that is
Coleman
what
re-signed.
Yeah, this is the exact thing they did last year. Is
to hold a clipboard.
Yeah.
They used Carter, then they used Ty, then they used Tevin Coleman. They even used another Carter, I think it was. He literally scored one touchdown the entire season, but for some reason he was on the field. So that's the thing that scares me the most when it comes to Hall. I like his talent. I think he can produce when it comes to that. Obviously, you said the offensive line's not the most attractive thing in the world, and the offense in general isn't going to be the most high-powered.
Yeah.
I just don't like the scheme. It's a little bit nerve-wracking.
I think it's Austin Walter you were thinking.
Yeah, Walter.
Oh, it was.
Carter.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Walter
Michael
Carter.
Perrine's ghost is still lurking in those halls too.
So they traded up for Hall. Is that meaning that they're going to feature him? Maybe.
He's easily the best guy in that backfield, but does that mean anything to them?
Yeah, I was going to say,
Exactly.
pure talent, no one's going to dispute that. He's head and shoulders above anybody else that would be on that room, but the coaching staff is weird when it comes to this type of thing.
I think it's more that he gets like 55% of the workload, and then the other 45% is split between like three guys. So I think this is a great situation where, like we've talked about a couple of times now, where this is not a handcuff I want.
No.
I don't want Michael Carter, even at his ADP, not interested in any way, shape, or form. I think even if something were to happen to Breece Hall, it would just become another car wash. I think Hall is the only thing of value in this backfield and the only thing I'm interested in.
Also, Wilson, as we said with Carter last year, and Ty Johnson both, they were among the leaders for a short period of time in targets to the running backs. And Wilson was definitely the negation to that. He negated all of it. Yep. Everybody but Wilson targeted the running backs at a high rate. Wilson was among the bottom in the entire NFL.
Yes.
It's hard to target your running back when you're sprinting out immediately, when your first read is gone and you immediately tuck the ball and start running to the sideline or trying to run. You don't throw that dump off pass. We've seen that before with other players. It's just a function of how he likes to play the game. So he doesn't. His style doesn't lend itself to stand in the pocket, hit my check down with the running back that eventually comes free in the flat or just on the other side of the line. You know what I mean? He doesn't do that. He takes off and then tries to huck something down the field 50 yards, and maybe it works out, or maybe he throws a pick. That's small sample size, but That's what we've seen.
All right, wide receiver. Did you guys know that Corey Davis is still in the league? This is the first I'm hearing of this. This is very interesting. Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson was their pick at number 10 this year. They also still have Elijah Moore.
Mike, do you need a break?
I'm
You
just
need to
still
go
really
get.
mad
You need to
at-
go stand up and stretch. Get like a Tums.
I'm just really mad about the fact that Garrett Wilson went to the Jets. I really
Again.
loved him coming into the pre-draft process, and then now I look at him on this roster, and I'm like,
What a waste.
With the baby
Yeah.
puke green uniform. Oh yeah, looking great.
Like, if you were to sit there and switch Garrett Wilson and Drake London landing spots,
Mhm.
would you think of Garrett Wilson the same way that you do Drake London now, where he is actually
Yes.
a solid
Yeah.
option to draft?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
what would you think of Drake London in the Jets offense?
Useless.
Crater.
Right.
Useless.
Yeah, crater down the rankings.
Just sad.
Elijah Moore had a 6-week stretch last season, weeks 8 to 13, in which he was top 10 in the NFL in targets, catches, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns, resulting in him being the wide receiver 4 in PPR points per game during that stretch. Was Zach Wilson playing during that time?
I don't think he was.
I'm almost positive he wasn't. I'm almost positive.
Zach Wilson missed games 7 to 10.
So you have like one game in there?
Or what was that? Weeks 8 through 11 is when Zach Wilson missed. So yeah, the last two, weeks 12 and 13, that's when Zach Wilson came back. And you know what? Now I'm curious. Now I have to look. Were those the worst games during that stretch?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll vamp while you work that math out. That's fine.
Right now, Elijah Moore is going ADP wide receiver 34. I've got him 38. Neil, you've got him 32. Mike at 27, buying the talent, not the situation. And 32 for the ECR as well.
And the fact that they're hanging out a lot. They're best of friends now.
Just going right into that narrative, huh?
It's either that or you do the narrative with Braxton Berrios. It doesn't work as well that way.
Right.
Well, Braxton
Yes,
Berrios
but
shouldn't even be listed as a
he
wide
got-
receiver. Like,
He got hurt and missed weeks 14 to 18 was Elijah Moore. So that's why we don't have a larger sample size on that. But he had a 9.3. That's hilarious. The worst game of that 6-game stretch was with Zach Wilson. He had a 20.6 against Philly. But yes, against Houston of all teams, he had a 9.3 in PPR scoring, and that was the worst of his stretch.
the vaunted Houston secondary.
So he had a 10 against New England, a 13 against Cincinnati, a 27 against Indy, and a 13 against Buffalo, and then a 29 against Miami, and a 9 against Houston when Zach Wilson came back. My God.
I mean, you can see where I'm going with the whole ranking that I have. He's talented. Just get the jug machine in there.
yeah.
That's all
Well,
you
Mike,
gotta
if
do.
you want to go fully down narrative street, if we want to just make that, we'll do this segment slightly.
Take a hard left turn down.
Yeah, take a hard left turn down narrative street. All the camp reports are that Elijah Moore is clearly the wide receiver 1 and is dominating
Well, he should be.
the competition.
I mean,
just dominating them.
There's
Like,
no chance this offense facilitates more than one option.
Right.
Zero chance.
Right.
So as much as I love Garrett Wilson as a player and a talent, I don't foresee him having really anything this year. He might have some games and everything else, like any talented wide receiver will do. He'll show up and have a double-digit game here or there, but it's going to be tough to draft him when you have so much question marks around Zach Wilson, around the offense in general, and Corey Davis is still there for a three-headed monster, basically, but Elijah Moore is, in my opinion, the lead dog, as we're hearing from camp, by a margin.
Yeah. And Wilson's going in the 11th round, wide receiver 49. That's too much.
Yeah,
I don't want
can't
that.
do
I don't want that. I don't want that. Nobody wants that.
No. I think this is pretty open and shut. I don't think we have to spend a ton of time on this, actually. I mean, look, Corey Davis is a name that you know, but don't get distracted by that. He's going undrafted for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would have to double check the actual language of his contract, but I would have to believe if there's a way they can get out of it, he doesn't make the team.
You mean, given how much money he's about to make? Because remember, they signed him to that huge deal.
Yeah.
I do think next year there is a chance of getting out next year.
Next season. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not going to matter this year. That was kind of my greater point. The bigger thing was they re-signed Braxton Berrios, and he actually was useful at the end of last season, and he actually did have a connection with Zach Wilson, unlike anyone else.
Right.
However, they immediately go out and get Wilson and essentially close up any gaps he might have had into a starting role.
Berrios also had his best games when Moore was already hurt towards the end of the season. So it's Braxton Berrios is interesting in the sense that he did have a role and a connection, but it was after Elijah Moore was already off the field. Mm-hmm. And I want to also point out that the Braxton Berrios thing is very jet sweepy. He did a lot of his damage on designed runs, and they had him doing a lot of jet sweeps that he happened to take into the end zone. Are they going to do that again? I don't know. I just don't know. And is it going to be consistent enough that you would ever want to roster Braxton Berrios? Answer that in your heart of hearts.
I mean, I'm pretty
Look
sure
into your heart.
Even going on from Moore being injured, Crowder was injured. I believe Michael Carter was injured. It was who else we got?
So here's the way I'll put it. I think this sums it up beautifully on the depth chart here. Elijah Moore, we all agree, is the guy you would want if you'd want anyone, just because he's got that upside, right? You listed off the numbers there, Mike, that he had that great stretch when Zach Wilson wasn't playing. But even when Zach Wilson was playing in those two games, he had a 9 and he had a 20. And then effectively, Braxton Berrios steps into that slot role that Elijah Moore would normally be holding. And he finished the year with an 11, a 10, a 15, and a 25. So if that's going to be the Elijah Moore role, then yeah, you can feel pretty good about it. And if Elijah Moore is out or misses time again, then I think Braxton Berrios steps into that slot and we feel fine about it. And we know that Zach Wilson just loves to throw to the slot and nobody else matters. And that's basically it.
So it's a thing with the New York quarterbacks, apparently.
Yeah. I think it's a name to know, though, just because if something were to happen to Elijah Moore, I believe that the gut reaction for everyone is going to be it's Garrett Wilson season and that he's going to be unleashed and he's going to be the option when really I think it's Berrios that steps into that role and he's the guy I want to pick up off waivers. Tight end, our boy, CJ Uzomah, signs with New York.
I'm so sad by this, Steve. I always joke that the Jets is where veteran tight end goes to die, and they had to do it twice this year, and they got my boy. No, I hate this. Hate everything.
They also signed Tyler Conklin and only had 2 games with 8+ fantasy points last season. So look, Uzomah's been our guy for a while. We love it. But
I mean, you guys do.
I meant me and Neil.
I will cut your microphone, sir. Yeah, that can be arranged. Like that.
Okay, we love it. We love CJ Uzomah here.
I mean, I'm just going to point out, okay, as was said with the stat.
Tread carefully, Mike.
He only had 2 games that was even in double digits of any sort. Yeah. They were tight end 1 weeks, the tight end 1.
Yeah.
He just had phenomenal weeks twice. The rest of the season, he just didn't do anything. So do with that what you will.
We understand the trials and tribulations of CJ Uzomah, the creamy highs and the salty lows, and that he's never been the picture of health. We understand this as people who have talked him up previously. Like
CJ Uzama has always been our guy in the tight end roulette of literally no one else wants to draft him. So I will take him in the 15th round
right
on a flyer
as my backup tight end.
because I can get him as my tight end too, and he has potential upside. And that faded last season with when he got all the other options around him. He actually had a career high in receiving yards last year, and he played the whole season, which again, that's big news for him.
Yeah, rare.
He had second most targets, which almost had a career high. 64 is his career high. He had 63. And then he had a career high in receptions, career high in yards, career high in touchdowns. He had a decent year last year. He was all right.
If we do want to go behind the scenes and look into like some conspiracy stuff about why he was signed with the Jets, one, they probably gave him the most money. Two, I'm pretty sure one of those 2 games that he went off was against the Jets.
Was against the Jets?
Sure.
Yeah,
the other one was Jacksonville, I'm pretty sure.
Right,
so
right.
They got firsthand view of to what he can do. It's just whether he'd do it with them.
Well, if you want to make another hard left down narrative street, the reporting out of camp is Zach Wilson is developing a real chemistry with CJ Uzama, and he's looking for him early and often over the middle because, as we've already illustrated, Zach Wilson can only throw it over the middle unless he runs out of the pocket and throws a screaming dart down the field, probably an interception. That's really what he can do.
It was Jacksonville and Baltimore. Those were the 2 games he went off last year.
But
the Jets game was the game after the Baltimore game. So I could definitely see they watched a lot of tape on.
They watched all that film. Yeah, they got all the film,
and they're like, "Damn, this guy is good."
They don't even know what they have
down the field.
Who is this 87? I don't even know. I've never heard of this guy.
He used to play wide receiver, converted to tight end. Oh my god,
those guys are always good.
They're always good. Is he almost 30?
We say all this because we love CJ Uzama. It means nothing. Don't draft him. Don't waste.
No.
We already mentioned it's Breece Hall or bust on this roster. Like, if you want to take a flyer on Elijah Moore, knock yourself out.
Well, Elijah Moore's ADP is such that it's like, is that even really a value at this point? Because I'm seeing a lot of weirdness.
It's not a value, but I understand the hype and the upside that Elijah Moore does have because of the games that he played in that stretch that was just, you read him off 13, 18, 20, 27. That's what and the guys that are going around him are some question marks as well, like Alan Lazard and people like that. So is it crazy to see him outscore either the couple guys ahead of him? No.
Well, forget about value pick or not for a second then, and let's just talk about it this way. There's 2 guys you're actually drafting. It's Breece Hall and Elijah Moore is going in a draftable range.
I'd still say it's just Breece Hall.
Yeah, but beyond that, there's nothing else that's even registering with like a real draftable ADP.
Yeah.
No.
Tight end is no different.
I hate to go backwards again, but Elijah Moore, like we were talking about, in his ADP right now, he's going in the same space as Michael Thomas, Juju Smith-Schuster, Rashad Bateman, Brandon Ayuk, Robert Woods.
Oh, no, there's several. Hold on, there's several.
I'd take him over Ayuk.
Yeah, Ayuk wasn't the one I was saying that about. It's the Bateman one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather Bateman.
All 3 beforehand, Bateman, Juju, and Michael Thomas, not even close. No.
Again, even in Underdog, there have been several situations where someone is, even though that's the ADP, there's always somebody who loves Elijah Moore more than I do.
I believe that.
He's never, I've got him ranked at 38. He's never going to get there. If he fell to 38 and my other options were gone, fine. But by the way, I was told the Jets do have a defense and kicker. Doesn't matter though.
No, tight end doesn't matter. Defense doesn't matter. Kicker doesn't matter. I will say, we've talked a lot of crap today about the Jets, and deservedly so. But at a high level, believe it or not, this is actually a much better Jets roster than what we've seen over the last couple of years. We can go back through those shows where those shows were 10 minutes because there was nothing to discuss, and it does have to do with the fact that at the ownership level, the guy who owns that team was the ambassador to the United Kingdom under the Trump administration. And so he left the team to be run by his brother. And over the last year and a half, he's taken it back over and he's slowly undoing everything his brother did while he was gone for 4 years. So, fun fact about the Jets. That's what you're watching happen in real time. So, they're still going to be hideously bad for a few more years, but at least they are, would we not agree, they're at least trying. They're slowly trying to bring in young talent.
I mean, they've
attempt
been
to-
trying.
I know, but outside of quarterback, I'd argue
They're
at least
just
they're
failing.
making,
That's the
yeah.
problem.
They're
Consistent.
They
making
were
better
also
decisions, at least.
trying to get both Tyreek Hill and Debo Samuel.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to improve this roster a lot.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm just mad that Wilson was a part of that plan.
They were in on AJ
Garrett
Brown
Wilson
too
to say.
before
I know.
before he went to Philly. So they are trying to make moves. They're just not working.
Yeah, it's just nobody wants to
Yeah.
be the other side of the
There you go. There it is. Nobody wants
There
to
it
go
is.
play for the Jets.
There it is.
That's the cold reality here,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
There's a stench that, some teams just have.
You just can't shake it. All right. Well, that ends it for our Jets coverage. I mean, as thrilling as it was, we will be.
We
back
got more
for
out of that
next
than the
match.
Giants coverage yesterday. That's how sad that the Giants team is.
I mean, it was a fairly low bar, but even still, I mentioned it a couple of times. But Philly and their new weapons they got over there, but they're up tomorrow, so we'll be back to talk about the Eagles. Until then, keep up the nonsense.
I'm Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!